I'm sorry I couldn't save your home. Then she says, my countrymen are stronger than you think. A few toppled clock towers won't break their spirits. They'll be back on their feet in no time.
And this is when Clive says, oh, that's what you think happened? Because the whole city is basically... like maybe no one's told her yet, like the extent of the damage.
This city doesn't exist anymore, just so you know.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the State of the Ark podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Kaysen.
This is our Final Fantasy XVI analysis, and we left off after Twinside was destroyed by Bahamut and the DBZ fusion of Ifrit and Phoenix.
Yes. Oh, that was fun. That was good.
Yep, good stuff. They fought in space. The city is destroyed. Joshua and Clive's mother slit her own throat.
Yep, she's out.
Freaking Ultima casted Primogenesis.
Yes.
Dion is alive still. He's been taken back to
I didn't think he was alive. After that cutscene, I was pretty sure he died.
He survived.
What a shock.
He's sleeping at the Hideaway.
Yeah.
So that's where we left off last time. Now, we're going to continue on. We probably will get up to the point today where you fight the King of Waloed for the second time in the ocean, and he splits the freaking sea in half with his sword, which was sweet.
Yeah.
We'll probably talk up to about that point, and then next time we'll get into Ash itself. So, okay. So my first note here is about this scene between Barnabas and Ultima back in Ash, I guess. Okay, it's Waloed.
Yeah, Waloed is the majority of Ash, yeah.
Yeah. So Ultima is like manipulating him here. So he appears first as Benedicta, and then he like becomes Kupka, and then he turns into Ultima. And so he's like talking to him, but like it's clear he's sort of appearing as I don't know, because I'm not sure what to make of this scene. I think you said the same thing. Like I'm not sure what Ultima is doing by appearing as all these different people.
Yeah.
Because Barnabas already believes Ultima is a god and is like faithful to him.
Yeah.
I don't see the need to disguise himself as other people.
It was for us to see that, I guess.
I still don't understand also how Ultima is not trapped in the Phoenix and he can just appear places.
It's a little confusing.
There is one line we'll get to a little later that I think can clarify that a bit.
Okay.
But I'm still, again, this is all going back to my whole thing of I don't understand how Ultima's powers work.
Oh,
so
right,
I just don't really get it. But
yeah,
there's some key dialogue to go over here.
Okay.
So men, you are as meek as all the others, he says, as Benedicta. Gifted the power of icons, yet slaves to fickle emotions, which usher you to your doom.
Those darn emotions.
It's the emotions, dude. And so you bind your fragile wills with strands of consciousness. The wretched handiwork of a wretched people, says Barnabas back to him, then back to Ultima. The sons of fire were united at last, and for but a moment their flame burned bright. Soon Mythos shall become our perfect vessel. And then Barnabas says, and then shall the world be remade. And then Ultima says, not
and
before.
That's Primogenesis, by the way.
Yes, right. Not before the bonds are severed, the bonds of consciousness.
Yes.
Of trust, of respect, of love. Only when every strand of consciousness is cut away may Mythos return to our side. By primogenesis shall this be done. Mankind shall be rid of his wretchedness and Mythos of his will. But while he yet clings to it, he has the power to forge bonds anew. And so we bid you find Mythos and sever everyone. And so, I mean, the fact that he's Odin and that he has the capability of basically cutting through anything.
He severs bonds.
Right.
Yeah, that's symbolic. Yeah.
He's the prime candidate for this particular cast or task. There is nothing your black blade cannot cut, Odin. We shall unite with Mythos and bring forth a new world, so long as our vessel remains unclaimed by humanity. And then Barnabas says, "It shall be done, Master, my will is yours." And then it's almost like as a reward for that, as a reward for his loyalty to do this, Ultima transforms into like the image of his mother.
Yeah.
And he like lays in her lap.
Well, this seems to me like a clear reference to the Oedipus complex as put forth by Freud. Barnabas has the opportunity to reunite with his mother through Ultima. That Ultima is the one that is providing this opportunity to Barnabas that he wants. And that is the reason for his unfailing loyalty to Ultima.
Now, the game proper doesn't really say anything about his mother,
Yeah.
but in the ATL it does.
Of course.
So, and I've got some background on this pulled up here. So apparently Barnabas's mother was a follower of a religion called the Circle of Malleus, which is something we'll be getting more into with when Joshua goes with Clive to Tabor.
To Tabor.
And they have like the mural that's like
Right.
kind of like not complete. And he's
Yeah,
describing
that's
how
right.
this used to be a dominant religion and now we don't really know anything about it anymore. But apparently Barnabas's mother was one who followed this particular religion, this Circle of Malleus, an ancient religion that worshipped Ultima. However, due to their beliefs being viewed as heresy, she ended up being killed by members of a rival religion. This event seems to have instilled a great hatred towards humanity within Barnabas and forced to flee to Valisthea in order to avoid similar persecution, setting the trajectory of his life. Would have been great to have seen that.
Yeah,
and
that's
not
very interesting.
Read that in an ATL. Would have been
I
great
agree.
motivation for a villain,
Yeah.
which I think is very
Oh,
important.
very much so.
To understand
it's
why.
strange that a religion that existed that recently and who this dude's mom was part of it, but then it's like we know nothing about it.
Yeah, maybe
That sounds more ancient.
Maybe in Ash, it's
Just there's
there was
little
remnants
contact
of
between
it,
the two.
but like in Storm, nobody has.
Okay.
But I don't know. Like you're saying, these two continents have been in pretty regular contact, and I would assume trade for quite a long time.
For a long time.
That's the one thing that I'll continue to come back to in this episode too. I really don't have a strong grasp of how large these continents are.
Me neither.
They
Me
seem to
neither.
make decisions about, I'm going to go back here and then over here, as if you can
It's not
traverse
too
that
much.
in like a day.
Oh, I heard something about Australia given as like an example.
Of the
I think in the
size?
comments or somewhere that what we're looking at between the two of them is something along the lines of Australia.
Oh, like combined. The
Yeah.
two of them combined are
I
like that
believe
size.
it's two combined. Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Okay.
Still, you know.
I guess it's interesting growing up in the United States, which is a very large country
Yeah.
in comparison to, say, even like European countries, which are
yeah.
generally much smaller. Like, you could like cross your own country and
Yeah.
I don't know how long if you were to walk or
Oh, if you were walking, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, a couple weeks or something like that.
Luxembourg might just take a day or two. Yeah,
But like walking across America is freaking like crazy.
that's insane.
And you know, people did it. I'm not
They did.
saying it's
But it was
impossible. I'm just
many
saying
months-
it's
months
a
and
long
months
freaking
back
time
in
to
the
do
day,
that.
yeah.
So anyways, but the decision making on like at the end of the episode, we'll get to this part where it's like, okay, the Einherjar, the ship
Yeah.
of Odin has sank. They won't
sick
attack
name.
Storm for a while. We're good
Right.
to like go back to the hideaway and then come all the way back, say all the way back to Ash again later, as
Yeah.
if like these kinds
Like
of journeys are
a
not
one-day,
a big deal.
couple hours,
Or
yeah.
like even going into what we'll talk about next time, Joshua and Clive and Gav just going to like walk across Ash, the blighted areas of Ash to
when
get
I
to
think
Waloed.
about that, that's
It's like, I mean, you'd need a ton of
weeks.
supplies for that, I would think.
Yeah,
Unless it's like, oh, you can walk that far in like 3 or 4 days. You know? So I don't really understand the size or the time it takes to go from place to place. Even like when they hear that Canvar's being attacked and they're like, okay, what's the quickest road there? Right? and they tell Gav by a Stolas, just like hang out and don't leave, stay where you are, we're coming.
That's right, yeah.
But like, how many days does it take them to go from the Hideaway to Canvar?
Yeah.
I have no clue. Like the time, the passage of time between scenes. I have no clue like how long it's been since the 5-year time skip, for instance.
And
it's really hard to make it
given what
out.
we've done and how much time it would take to do these things, you would think it'd be turning winter soon or something like that.
Right?
Yeah, we're talking months in terms of just travel time.
Yeah.
And that's to say nothing of all the fast traveling here and there and back here and there and back here and there and back here and there, over and over and over. It might have been years.
Side quests that you have to go on and go back up here to Martha's Rest and then over here to the freaking this place.
Yeah.
And
the Australia thing may
continent.
be incorrect, but that's what I've heard. It certainly doesn't feel that big. But.
We got some people talking here. Tough Ham says, I recall an NPC from the Order of the Phoenix, the folks that serve Joshua, which we'll talk about today, commenting that many years ago a taboo group was driven away from Valisthea. I took that group to be the Circle of Malleus, but it wasn't clear just how long ago that was. This same NPC said that the Order of the Phoenix is not unique. Other icons have their own cult groups. That's interesting because...
Right. Each god. I mean, that makes
Joshua talks about this religion as if it has been lost to time.
Yeah, and it's like 30 years ago, maybe, and like this dude's mom was part of it, and there's probably still people alive who like remember it and were part of it.
And there are actual like surviving tapestries.
Yeah.
You know,
certainly. So, I was thinking 1,000 years. That's what I was thinking.
That's what when they say ancient. That's what I would think. Yeah. But anyway.
Okay.
Not to get too caught up in the weeds on all that. It's just I have some questions. We'll see what people in the comments say about all that. So, back at the hideout. Joshua and Dion are being tended to by Taria. The skies are all overcast now. You have people like NPCs in the hideaway who are saying things like mothers save us, as in the mother crystals. Right, and then someone says might be hard now that there's only one. And then another one says, then we're all doomed. And I'm just thinking, do these people not realize that Clive and everyone, they're like destroying these mother crystals on purpose? So they're talking as if like, oh, mother crystals save us.
And who said that? Who is saying
like
that?
NPCs at the hideaway said
what?
This.
There then?
Yeah.
It's possible that nobody knows what we're doing.
Is this like
possible.
A secret? I would think everybody there knew that the whole mission and goal was to destroy the mother crystals. Maybe they didn't tell anybody. That's what.
It's possible they didn't tell anyone.
Every time Clive goes away, there happens to be another mother crystal that gets destroyed.
But once again, the time, you just don't make that connection.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they're doubting all of this now. It's like, oh, things seem to be getting worse. Yes. Which was kind of everything Sid was saying. It's like things will get way worse before they get better if you take this path.
Yeah.
So I could see that as a possibility.
When this happened, and I can't remember who says this, but I have this quote here that says, "And on the 6th day the gods did tear the sun from the firmament, visiting darkness upon their prideful sons and daughters." Was this from, what's his name? Tomes?
Yeah, Tomes.
Tomes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is basically that's relevant to what's happening right here. But what's really interesting is that the 6th day, like we're talking about the days of, I would assume days of creation.
Yeah.
But it seems like these are days of destruction.
Yeah, something like that.
Right? It seems like God is taking away things, tearing the sun away from the firmament, visiting darkness upon the sons and daughters. Maybe doesn't quite feel like a creation.
The 6th day of the war between man and the gods.
Yeah,
or
but this is
like
clearly meant to parallel Genesis.
Yeah, that's what I'm not saying the 6th day is in the literal 6th day as much as like a time period or age or season of war with the I don't know, something like that.
That's possible, but so it's funny. I read this multiple different ways, and it's like, okay, maybe the first 5 days were creation, and then the 6th day was like, oh crap, I got to like undo some of my creation, but then the creation was 5 days. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so you go talk to Otto, and he basically says that you need to talk to Tomes, and you need to talk to Vivian to get like a better idea of what you do next. I'm not a planning
Vivian,
guy.
By the way, I want to keep my encounters with her to a minimum. She is the worst character in the game by far, hands down, hands freaking down. My goodness.
I know what you mean. I don't feel quite as strongly about it, but. It is interesting that they play her off as this exceptionally like intelligent sort of strategist, and like everything she says is just obvious as balls. It's just so like duh. And and again, maybe I prelude all of this by saying Final Fantasy 16 is a pretty good game. I don't hate this, but like.
Generally speaking, I do like the game too.
I feel like around this time forward in the story, I have begun to feel more and more like the dialogue, while like well written in sort of a flow sense and a sort of a consistency sense.
Yeah, like the prose is nice.
It feels like a little bit hollow, like they're kind of just like repeating platitudes or saying things that sound lofty or important, but like underneath it, they're not really saying much of any substance.
And that becomes very Vivian's character is especially that.
Yes.
She gives a hint later on. I should probably just bring it up later when it happens, but when the characters end up going to a new place. But she's like, that was so easy. Oh my gosh, like my intelligence is wasted on you people. It was something along those lines. And then Clive's like, of course. And like he's just like totally cool with it. He just like grovels at her feet, and she is just the worst. Okay, let's keep going.
So anyway, let's see. What was my line here I took down? Oh, she's from... Oh, wait, did I go too far here? No. She's from Twinside. So her city was destroyed in that Bahamut battle, right? And so when Clive comes to her, he says, I'm sorry we couldn't save your home, She's like, how is it that every one of your little excursions presages some inexplicable catastrophe?
Does she not know we're destroying the crystals either? Does no one know?
That's a good question.
Maybe nobody knows. I didn't even think of that possibility until you just now brought it up.
Yeah, maybe they're not telling people. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sorry I couldn't save your home. Then she says, my countrymen are stronger than you think. A few toppled clock towers won't break their spirits. They'll be back on their feet in no time.
And this is when Clive says, oh, that's what you think happened? Because the whole city is basically... like maybe no one's told her yet, like the extent of the damage.
This city doesn't exist anymore, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's dead.
I mean, the big spires are still there. We do get a view of it when Dion goes back a little bit later.
But and it looks horrific.
It's in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone told you this, but
it's being rebuilt is not like a couple month process. This is like a years long thing. It's like a rebuild the whole foundations kind of deal. But okay, so what she says here is, beneath these darkened skies, fear and confusion reign over Valisthea. Oh, the lands around the fallen mother crystals had already begun to wilt for want of ether, but not like this. So she's saying that when the mother crystals are destroyed, those lands wither more, which again, if I were Clive... Do we gotta...
I can't. I have to look at you, but that GIF is right there. I can't.
I wish people could see what we're looking at from our comment section. By the way, if you want to join us live on these, check out our Patreon, or you can join memberships here on YouTube, where we got a subscribe star. 3 different
that's right.
ways you can do that. Check out the $10 level. You can come watch these live and comment and be with us. But people
and distract us while we're trying to do a serious podcast, people.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the lands are withering even when the mother crystals are destroyed. This would cause me personally to question whether or not Sid was right in his assumption. But
yeah, exactly.
Crystals that filled wells and fueled furnaces are now owned. She's talking about the little crystals people have too.
Yeah,
those are also no longer working, right? And those that hang from the people's necks cast an area glimmer of light to keep the darkness at bay. It's only a matter of time before the common folk convince themselves that the end of days is upon us. I liked that Rob over here said that this weather is like every day in Manchester. Like it doesn't really look all that menacing to me.
We don't see the sun. Yeah, that's funny.
You have again, I still don't know what they're going to do with this red star next to the moon. I was really convinced that was going to be like a fallen meteor, like an FF7 style kind of thing.
Right. Because it orbits with the moon. It's clearly not a star. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, that's like Beetlejuice or something. No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a thing on the moon. Like, what is it?
Right. And so when this spell was cast, I thought, oh, it's going to start growing larger. It's going to start, coming down. But it's just, it got cloudy.
Yes, quite different.
Primogenesis is just, it's just cloudy now. Okay, so I fear a swift end is more than we could hope for. While most of the world thirsts for ether, the remainder drowns in it, spawning in Akashic drove. So we're having ether floods in other places. I guess that could be a result of the crystals being destroyed too. And amidst the hordes of mindless beasts with magics as like to fail as function, even the strongest nation would falter. Rosaria and the Iron Kingdom teeter on the brink of collapse. While the tragedy in Twinside has all but paralyzed the Holy Empire, Dhalmekia fares little better. Rumor has it the ministers fled the capital after the fall of Drake's Fang. It's revealed later they're hiding out in Canvar now, leaving their beloved people in the Republic to crumble. Waloed, meanwhile, moves in earnest. The Arnheriar, which is the ship, has been sighted off storm. The world, in short, is in chaos. It would seem our civilization has was nothing but a castle of sand to be washed away at the whim of the waves. So, this is true of all civilizations. Actually, it doesn't take a lot
They don't last
really
forever.
to topple them. It's kind of everyone just has to agree that it's working in order for it to work.
Well, that's trust.
And look past.
A civilization founded on trust, where everyone agrees on the same kind of things.
Yeah.
As people lose trust in each other, and that
just
connection starts to break,
falls apart.
it's pretty
Very
short time.
flimsy.
Yeah. And that's what I say. Every civilization is one generation away from collapse.
Right.
And if any generation just drops the ball, it's like you're all done. It's over.
Yep. So she leaves off by saying, should the king of Waloed deign to invade, there would be none to stop him. So, and then Clive's, none but us. So this would be the time for Waloed to invade if they wanted to do that. There's no one to stop them at this point.
Yeah.
So now we go, I went to speak to Tomes next because you could do this in any order. I liked this line. It doesn't take a court astrologer to augur the obvious. As for what has disturbed the heavens, that I believe is a question for the fallen might be a better place. Is a question the fallen might be better placed to answer than I. And on the sixth day did the gods tear the sun from the firmament, visiting darkness upon their prideful sons and daughters. But I dare say you remember your childhood lessons on the sins of Dismekis? Is that how they pronounce that? I forget.
Zemeckis.
Zemeckis. Zemeckis.
That's it.
Only too well. And Clive's, well, you think they're connected? That Ultima was one of the gods responsible? And he says, well, he has certainly exhibited powers that we mortals would associate with the divine. And then Clive says, there's nothing divine about him. And I liked this retort too. But he wouldn't be the first god of whom that could be said now,
yes.
would he?
So, that's hilarious, by the way.
It's great stuff.
It's wonderful, actually. I could dissect that conversation, but maybe another time.
Okay. Yet for all the fairy tales that tell of the sins, there is almost nothing in the way of actual historical accounts. Had I the journal of Moss the Chronicler, I may be able to tell you more, but alas, I fear all remaining copies have been lost to time. You will forgive me, I hope. And Clive says, certainly not, because there's nothing to forgive. Even without the journal, you've been a beast. So then you go back to talk to Otto.
But one of the other things that Clive says, because they're talking about these old gods, right? And, these gods are not divine, that whole thing. But then Clive, he wonders, is Ultima one of those old gods, right? Speaking of the old gods of the past. But then he says there's nothing divine about him, right? But he's wondering about whether or not Ultima has been, involved in this for a very, very long time instead of, a recent thing, which Ultima seems to be more recent, especially since Harpocrates finds nothing about him in the history books.
Except for the fact that Joshua believes the image in the tapestry at the top is Ultima. But go back to talk to Otto, and he tells you, oh no, all of our friends across the realm are being attacked by Akashic, and you have to go save them.
Yep.
So
the name and
almost no notes
Martha.
from this part. But you go to Martha's Rest, you go to Northreach, you go to Dalamil, and you solve problems for them, and you fight off the Akashic, and, whatever. In Dalamil, like, there's these two... Wait, is this the part? It might be later than this.
I think that's a little bit
where
later.
They're arguing about, how should we handle the bandits nearby?
I think that's a little bit later.
Anyway, you go back multiple times over the
Yeah.
next couple of chapters and help these people or not.
Or not.
I guess if you skip them.
Yeah.
Well, no, these are mainline story sequences. You
Well,
have
the
to
one
do
with Martha,
these.
because, some of this
Yeah.
does have bearing in what happens a little bit later.
Some of them are side quests later, but anyway, I took no notes on any of that. I just found it to be kind of filler.
Just we killed a bunch of stuff. Yep.
And you just fight.
Although Oscar wants to be our esquire. He's
Oh, that's
Murdoch's
right.
kid.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's
when we
right.
go back and see Sir Wade, right, one of the people that fights with Sir Wade is a person named Oscar, who was Murdoch's kid. And if you don't remember Murdoch, he was from the very beginning of the game. He was the one who we were like fencing against, right,
Yes,
in the town.
right.
And he was like the chief of security. What would you call him?
Lord Commander of the
Lord
army,
Commander,
whatever.
but he was like he was charged with the safety of the king and the prince, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's his son who is seeking to become Clive's esquire. And originally, when Oscar asks, I'm like, no, why would Clive take an esquire? That's
Yeah,
so dumb.
right.
But Clive feels quite indebted to Murdoch and feels kind of bad because it's probably him who killed Murdoch.
Right.
So he accepts him on, although we don't really see him again. So do you know what's up with that?
It's
What's up with those whole esquire thing?
Tough Ham is saying it's Murdoch's nephew, not his son.
Oh, I thought it was Murdoch's son. It's Murdoch's nephew.
His
Okay.
nephew. I guess he didn't have any children himself. But do you
I
know
see.
what's funny is I had completely forgotten about this character because he literally never appears again.
I
as far as
thought
I'm
he was a
concerned.
new addition to our party.
Oh, I thought so,
I was
too.
like, oh, sick. We're getting a big party like every FF game ever. No, we aren't, actually. We are, well, we got a few people. We got like 4,
Yeah.
5 sometimes if Gav comes along.
And so, like, I was like, oh, cool. Like, he's going to be Clive's new squire, and we'll get more interactions with him and more of a connection to Murdoch. And then
Yeah,
I'm supposing he is there in the Hideaway somewhere.
Okay, somewhere.
Just I haven't come across him. I
haven't either.
totally forgot about this character after this. Just
well,
completely forgot.
he's studying our ways from a distance,
Yeah.
which he could have done without our permission.
Anyway, after you do all that,
Oh, by the way, yes, now we're in Dalamil, is where I showed up. And the
yeah.
Red Wings is a mercenary guild.
oh yeah,
They're called the Red Wings. I thought that
yeah.
was fun. That's an FF4 reference for
Yeah.
anybody who didn't catch that. And then hooray, we solved their problems. And then there was a line there, nothing unites, or maybe this is my own note, nothing unites quite like a common enemy.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that's the issue with Dalamil,
Yep.
is that they all needed a common enemy, so they have one now.
Is this
so.
where you go around and you start pretending like you're other people, and like Jill does a good job acting?
Yes, and
then
Clive
Clive
sucks
does a
at
bad
acting,
job
yeah.
at acting. And
Yes, that was it.
you're trying to convince
Yeah.
like Conrad and this girl to like put aside their differences and work together or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah. That's basically what these quests are. So then you go back to the Hideaway, and Joshua has woken up.
Yes, that's right, yes.
So you go in to talk to him. He says it was not Sylvester, the emperor, but Olivier who served as Ultima's puppet. And when Dion learned of this, he sought to slay the fiend, only for his father to take the spear that would have freed him. Enough to drive a man to madness. And Clive says, small
Yeah, that
wonder.
would suck really bad.
Clive says, small wonder he hasn't stirred. I would be afraid to wake. So Dion is there, but he hasn't woken
And
up.
this is where I learned that Dion survived
Still
at all.
alive.
And I'm like, what? He didn't die? I was so positive he died. That was a good death, too. And the way that his father showed up and, like, he reached for his father.
It
and
looked
just
like his
seemed
father's ghost was accepting him.
Yeah, welcoming him to the halls of the great kings of the dead, right?
Yeah.
Apparently not.
So then...
Oh, and then I wrote the Kingdom Hearts parallels run deep because Dion didn't die. Okay.
Clive asks Joshua what he knows about Ultima, and he says, very little, I'm afraid, despite my best efforts. 18 years ago, as I lay buried beneath the rubble of Phoenix Gate, 'twas not death who came for me, but another. I'm guessing Yote, or maybe...
Just the people
what's
she's
the other
with.
guy? What's his name?
Yeah, but it's like the
get
group.
his name later.
Yeah.
The Undying people.
The Undying, yeah.
And it was while in my rescuer's care I first heard of Ultima. I've been chasing his shadow ever since. Ultima is driven by some deep, dark purpose, and for whatever reason, it would seem you are crucial to his designs. He will stop at nothing to have you, even if that means toppling an empire. So this answers a couple of questions, actually. So Joshua did not die at all and sort of rebirth as a phoenix like we were maybe speculating at the beginning of the game.
But the symbolism, especially in movies and games and stories, the character doesn't have to actually die for the symbolism to still hold. Like we talked a little bit about a resurrection motif in our Cowboy Bebop episode where Spike falls from the building, and then there was a resurrection motif there, despite the fact Spike didn't really die and get resurrected. It doesn't have to be like literal.
Yeah.
So
he just, I guess, this happens a lot actually, where in icon form, a dominant will like get the crap beat out of them, and then they'll like go back, they'll like transform back into a person again.
Garuda,
and they're like
Benedict
bleeding and stuff, but like not dead. So that's kind of what happened to Joshua. He got
Dion too,
messed up by Ifrit, but when he transformed back into a boy again,
then Ifrit stopped attacking.
He was just kind of buried in rubble.
Yeah.
And then they found him. He was still alive. So he never died in the first place. Started looking into Ultima. Clive is interested in why him, like why has Ultima chosen him? Joshua says that is one of many answers that have eluded me, yet I am certain of this. It is not mere chance. You were chosen for a reason. All dominants carry with them the might of an icon, nigh limitless power. That is at once acutely limited. So he only wields fire, and Shiva only ice, and Titan only earth.
Right.
But Clive is different.
Clive is the avatar.
Yeah, right.
He's the only one who can wield all 8 elements.
All the elements.
That is the only difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's able to go and collect the powers from each of them. So that's what and the other big difference is all of them, just like other bearers, pay a price. Their body, they pay a price for using their magic, and Clive does not. So
that's
anytime
true. He doesn't. Yeah,
anytime Clive primes or uses magic, it doesn't like petrify him the way that it does the other dominants and bearers. So that's the other big difference. He says, I've encountered that thing several times now. If it or he, as you say, needs me, why hasn't he claimed me as he did the boy? I was confused by this line. What boy is he talking about?
Say it again.
Did I miss something? So Clive says, I've encountered that thing, Ultima, several times now. If it or he, as you say, needs me, why hasn't he claimed me as he did the boy?
He claimed the boy.
I don't know who he's talking about.
He claimed a boy?
I was really confused.
Olivier.
Okay, so he's talking about Olivier.
Does that mean that Olivier was originally a real person who then got claimed by Ultima? Because I thought Olivier, the way that he blue-centigrated made me think he was not real to begin with.
He was born that way. That's what I had assumed too, which is, I guess, why I didn't consider that.
Yeah.
So this is suggesting that Olivier was born normal, and then Ultima sort of like took over his body or something at some point. But again, how is he doing this if he's trapped in the Phoenix? I don't get it.
His ways are not our ways. You cannot know the will of Ultima.
That's freaking funny.
Well, if that's sufficient, then great. Otherwise,
okay, so that's what they're talking about. They're talking about
Olivier.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
The olive tree.
So Joshua says, were I to hazard a guess, I'd say the two of you are somehow incompatible. His mind not properly attuned to your body. His mind... Izuchi. Mind, awareness, spirit, call it what you wish, but I believe Ultima to be an embodiment of the concept. So I thought that line was interesting.
That's right. So Ultima is an embodiment of the concept of mind.
An awareness or spirit.
Yeah. And of course, this is people
of consciousness
refer to this, as the mind-body problem, which is like, you got your physical body, you got your brain. Is your mind your brain? No, your mind is not your brain. You can't confuse the two. But can your mind exist without your brain? No evidence that it can. But the mind is a when people refer to the mind, they're referring to something more abstract, something that seems to hover above the mind, the brain, the head, the body, right? As like an identity. It's like a separate thing that's like abstract. And so Ultima being the embodiment of the concept of mind, that's kind of hard to wrap my head around. But that would seem to suggest that Ultima doesn't have like physical manifestation, but that is whenever people see Ultima, people merely see hallucinations, which was the case with Kupka.
Yeah.
Kupka was just seeing things. Clive didn't see what Kupka was seeing, but
Yeah.
Ultima was manipulating through the mind, which can lend itself towards like a collective unconscious kind of idea that they might actually be going with. We talked about last episode.
Yeah.
Given this fact that it's like, he just kind of he exists in the minds, but then he can become manifest in a way that seems tangible. I think Ultima is really tangible, though. Like,
yeah, he is physically tangible. His tangible body is inside of the Phoenix.
there you go. So ever since then,
whatever his mind is, and I really liked what we were talking about last week, the concept of him being like the unconscious mind and being able to manipulate people through that.
That would be sweet.
But that's probably not the case. Rob is saying here that his ability to act within Joshua will be answered by the end.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
But I think you're on the right track there with it being related to mind and consciousness, being able to contact people through consciousness. The fact that he wants to be the only consciousness. Right? He doesn't want humans to have this consciousness. He wants to sever that from them.
So he'll be the consciousness, and then he directs their wills, which then just makes them an extension of his body.
Yes.
Right? They just are the physical.
Right.
And that's that's very interesting.
I think that's where they're going with all this. So.
Cool.
It is why I struggle and fail to contain him here within me. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? I mean, with every setting sun, I feel my strength wane, and though the Phoenix's flame mend the prison I have made for Ultima. So that he's uniquely able to do what he's doing with Ultima because as Ultima tries to break out of it, the Phoenix powers can like sort of reform the cage.
He brings up the sun too, so every time the sun sets, like he gets weaker, but then when the sun rises, he is revivified, rejuvenated, and he can go another day, right?
Yeah.
This could be another issue. Well, I don't know if it matters whether he sees the sun or not, but like when the clouds are covering everything.
Oh, if it makes him weak or something.
I don't know if that matters, but
we must find a means to bring an end to him before I meet my own. So before Joshua is killed by Ultima inside of him, they need to find a way to kill Ultima.
Yeah.
He's only bought them time by doing this.
I have one guess as to how that will happen.
The self-sacrifice of some kind.
Yeah, it's gonna. How many? Well, like so many movies.
Someone's gonna have to die.
Yeah,
Clive or Joshua, someone. So Tarja comes in and informs the party that an army of Akashic are at the gates of Canvar now. So Gavin, Mid, and Byron are all there. So Joshua decides he'll come with us because he needs to meet Yote there. That was their plan. Tabor is a town nearby Canvar, so if they had been separated at any point, they were meant to meet again at Tabor. So I'll come with you to Tabor and reunite with my attendant. He says, my attendant was with me in the Dominion before I primed. She would have watched the battle unfold and witnessed its outcome. I trust she'll be waiting for me in Tabor where I can finally introduce you. So he's going to finally introduce us to his Undying pals now.
that'd be great.
So my next note is there's like a billion side quests that open up here again, but
just Yote is the next one for me.
Clive I felt was like uncharacteristically harsh towards Joshua as they're traveling on the road to Tabor. So the three of them are kind of finally back together again, Clive, Joshua, and Jill. And Joshua says, it's like a dream, the four of us walking like we used to. And Clive's response to that is, enjoying this, are you? Gavin, the others could be in danger as we speak. It's just like, dude, you know what he means. Like, do you really think that? That's really weird outburst from him. That felt strange. I'm not sure why he responded to him that way. I didn't think there was anything in what Joshua was saying that was in any way sort of dismissive or not considerate of the danger that their friends are in, or that he's not concerned about that himself or anything like that.
Maybe the passage of time could have helped explain this a little bit better. Like, as far as we know, Clive just barely like reunited with Joshua in a way where they can actually like interact and talk.
Yes.
for this to happen, I get if they had been around for a while and we had some more character development, and then Clive starts to like get annoyed that Joshua's just really optimistic or something.
I don't know.
Like maybe eventually you could develop something like that where like, oh no, Clive's annoyed. But for this to be for this to come on the heels of their first interaction in 20 years, that's really strange, especially given that when Joshua turned into the Phoenix and began to fight Bahamut, Clive was just beside himself. I can't believe Joshua's alive.
I get to
alive.
be the shield
I'm his
again.
shield. Like he felt like he was 15 again.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a shield. Yes, I got a job to do. I have a duty.
Yeah.
I know exactly what to do. I'm going to protect
Purpose.
Joshua. I couldn't do it before. Now I can do it. He goes out and he is so just willing to drop everything and just be the Phoenix shield again. And now, right after that, he's just like, Phoenix, you think you're all that? Like, what's your deal, you know? And it feels strange.
Weird.
It feels strange.
It was really weird. There's a couple moments like
knock
this.
it off, will you? I really think this could have been, if this came many, many scenes later, it could have been better.
You had time where, and I mean, this is, I think, kind of just a general truth, right? You reunited with someone, you have these memories, but this person has changed.
Oh, totally.
They're not the same anymore, and you've grown apart.
But it takes a while to like realize that. And like, oh, I have to get to know the new you.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be tough. There can be some bumps along the way.
Sure.
But this is like too soon for that, it seems.
I agree.
And also, Joshua hasn't changed that much.
That's true.
Clive's changed a bit. Clive's changed.
Clive's changed a lot.
Joshua, though, he's pretty similar to his young self.
Seems to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it just seemed kind of a little weird.
Yeah.
And there's a couple more instances of this. I mean, not only a little bit later where well, I'll just get to it later.
We're getting there soon, actually. Yeah.
So, this is one of the few times I've taken notes on side quests. There's a pretty good one here. Like on the way to Tabor, there's this Dalmatian soldier who's like dying. And he was like, we got taken, off guard by this ether flood, and my whole like regiment or platoon or whatever, like basically turned to Kashyyyk except for like a couple of other dudes and me, and we were fighting, and I don't know if there's any survivors or not. And so you go there, you kill all the Akashic, and there's like one survivor left, and he's sitting there like thanking you like for helping him and all this, and then he realizes you're Sid. And then he starts getting like super pissed. He's like, he like swears he's gonna like come kill you in your sleep someday or something like that if you don't, because he challenges you to fight him right then and there. You can choose to say yes or no to that. I chose to say no because like he doesn't know what he's dealing with.
You don't really know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
And anyway, he like basically swears like I will freaking kill you someday, Sid. So I kind of liked that. It was kind of it was well written. I feel like this little quest. It's very short, but I feel like it highlighted, kind of the complexity of a situation like that. Like your enemy, the person you've sworn to kill. Because this soldier was not just one of the Dalmatian Republic soldiers. He was one of like the personal guard, like personal army of Kupka. So like, if the dude who killed the person you were loyal to came and saved your life, what would you feel? I feel like they got that across in a pretty effective way. So I liked that little cutscene, that little side quest there. So then when you arrive in Tabor, you're met by Yote. Again, it's a little bit awkward. It's like this girl kind of just walks up, and both Jill and Clive like grab their swords, like, who are you? It's like... Why do you assume this person's trying to kill you? There's no threat made at all.
They walked into this room and there was nobody there, it seemed.
Yeah.
And then the cutscene happens. Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Like, okay, they're just jumpy.
Yeah, I guess.
But she like bows and introduces herself. She's a sworn keeper of the flame, trying to protect the keeper of the flame, the Phoenix.
Yeah.
So these are all loyal servants, these undying loyal servants to the ducal throne. More specifically to the heir.
Yeah, so Yote is a protector serving from the shadows of Rosaria. They protect and preserve the rites of ancestral communion. The Undying, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones that saved Joshua.
Yes.
Now, I have a general question about this. Did Annabella not know that the Undying
These people exist? It's good. I would think she would know that.
Duchess, yeah. She seems not to have known that.
Well,
because
unless
their goal,
she just believed that the report that Joshua was dead was true. Like, he was just fetching dead. Like,
Gotcha.
they can't, who cares if they exist? If Joshua's dead, then, like, they have no reason to live anymore. They have no purpose. There's no ducal heir anymore, I guess. Yeah. So she just bought the fact that Joshua was dead. But, I mean, you do bring up a good question, whether or not she was aware of their existence. I don't know if maybe...
and how they were kind of the secret police watching everyone from the shadows all the time. Like, did she...
If it's like, how well kept a secret is that? Is this only for like the heir to know that these dudes exist? Like, I don't know about that.
Because if Annabella didn't know, that's a high up person to not know something that important.
Yeah. Tough Ham is saying, I don't think Annabella knew. They comment how the Undying are a well-kept secret even among the nobility in Rosaria.
Yes, and that's partly what I was wondering about. That's crazy if there was something going on like that Annabella didn't know about. But
yeah. Okay, so she says, my lord, it is as you feared. She's saying this to Joshua at this point. The vessel we spied off the coast of the Crystalline Dominion on the night of her fall, it is, or was, the Einherjar, beyond all doubt. And Joshua says, the Black Galleon. And then Clive's response, Joshua, the Einherjar is the royalist flagship. What business would they have at the Dominion? And I'm just going like, Clive.
Where have you been?
Waloed has been at fetching war with the Empire for like decades here over disputed land, fertile land in which to like live because the blight, like what the fetch are you talking about? You were just told this, that at any time now, it's like primed for Waloed to come and invade. And he's like, wait a minute, why would the Einherjar be there, Joshua? He's
that's great.
What the freaky, dude, are you listening to anything anyone has said in this whole game?
By the way, Einherjar means army of one. They are the souls of Valhalla who fought and died in battle. Only the bravest were chosen. And a black galleon. Of course, the word galleon means just like a ship. But Einherjar, pretty sweet name.
I like it. There's definitely a very Norse sort of like naming convention to all the Waloed stuff.
Well, Barnabas has both, because Tharmr, his last name, sounds very Norse. But Barnabas is a Hebrew name. From the book of Acts. So, he's kind of like mixing two things here. But the other people, like we're going to get into his like sidekick dude. I'll get into his name because he's got a cool name.
Yes. It's the horse of...
Yes. Right? Yeah.
We'll get there in a minute.
Love it.
Okay, upon learning of Waloed's involvement in recent events at Drake's Fang, I sensed the malign influence of Ultima and bid Yote and the Undying look into the matter. We have reason to believe that the Black Galleon weighed anchor shortly after the fighting began and set a course due south. And then they asked for Canvar. Then it is the Walooder Knights who besieged the cities. What is left of them, of the Knights, yes. And the Black Galleon sails at but one man's behest, Barnabas Tharmr. Tharmr?
Tharmr is how they would pronounce it,
Yeah, right.
Tharmr.
This is where we cut away to what's called the Agora in the free cities of Canvar, where the Republic leaders are like hiding out.
This was interesting.
Arguing with each other about the state of the realm and what they should do next. And Barnabas sort of shows up and I really actually liked this.
The scene was very tense. It was very good.
Because one of them stands up and starts being like, oh, hail, the king has come to save us. But it's said in this way that suggests we're going to start trying to barter with you. We will certainly pay a reasonable price for all this stuff. And then one of them's like, you guys are morons, dude. Like the Akashic are wearing the Walooder colors. Do you deny it? Like, have you brought these Akashic to attack us? And they don't. And he's like, guards, like, take I don't know how. Again, I literally don't understand how anyone in this world
don't know who they're dealing with.
Seems to think that they can just fight a dominant, the most powerful godlike beings in the world. They're like, I'm just going to take Odin captive into the prison.
Yeah, just poke him with a spear. Just like, put on these cuffs, mate. You're going into
It's
the
like,
slammer.
what did you think was going to do? Also, this particular dominant has a sword that can cut literally anything on Earth.
Right. They would know that he's basically Odin, right? Like, they know that.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's very strange. I think maybe the nobility, these people, they just have a high opinion of themselves, and nobody crosses me, and nobody would kill me, right? They just feel that, like, they wouldn't dare. He wouldn't dare hurt me.
I would assume...
It would be a diplomatic error for him to kill the nobility of the other tribe.
I would assume anytime a dominant, like, entered the scene anywhere, everyone would just shut the fetch up and be like, okay, whatever you say.
Well, because that's what happened at the beginning of the game when Kupka shows up, and he just, like, pushes the king down, and he's like, I'm taking charge. Nobody else said a word, and he left the room, and that was that, right? Enough said, end of sentence. But every scene since then has been like,
people have like
you
this
think
hubris.
You can?
Oh, I can arrest you.
Yes.
Like, what? Do you really think that?
Okay, yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
Honestly, believe that you have any power here? It's like, how could
you have no power?
They don't. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
but
funny.
basically, with one slice of the sword, he kills like every single person in the
everybody.
room. Which is freaking sweet.
He kills the palace. He cuts the whole palace in half. It's like
he cuts the whole ocean in half.
That's right. Okay, that gets something else. There's a lot of fun
which is awesome. As like
it's very cool.
As a mythological sort of like power or ability, I love this concept of a sword that can cut anything. I think
a sword that can cut anything.
It feels very like mythological.
Yeah, mythological, totally.
It's awesome.
Legendary, yeah.
I
very much so.
freaking love it. And it really sets up this like last sort of dominant in the way of Clive, right? As a truly like formidable foe. Like, how do you kill somebody who can like just with one cut like cut or kill anybody?
Anything.
It's crazy.
Even like the planet.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Like,
right.
how can you destroy such a foe? I really love that. I don't feel like they quite sort of paid off how Clive came up with a way to defeat such a foe, but I loved it as a setup, as a power. Yeah. It's just so formidable. And twice he tries and fails to confront Odin. And like, you know, like how do I even beat this guy? It's like impossible.
Well, if you know anything about bosses, 3 hits.
3 hits in the weak spot.
3 hits in the weak spot, and you did it. You won.
Right. Anyway, we'll get more into that later. But we after that scene, we cut back to Clive and the party again.
But he's looking for a girl, by the way.
Oh, he's talking about Mid.
Yeah. So he asks everyone. They think he's there to barter. He's not. He's just like, hey, there's this girl I'm looking for. They're like, what are you talking about? He's like, you don't know? Okay, screw you all. Like, kills everyone. They don't know. They don't know what the girl is. Let's go somewhere else. But it's like that was like all the nobility of like. Anyways, it's really really.
Yeah, he's interested in finding Mid because Mid will draw Muthos out.
Okay, it's because, according to him, Mythos and this girl, Mid, have their consciousnesses bound together.
Yes.
And this is where I start getting a little bit lost as to what they mean by consciousness, but
I think he just means like they're friends and the bonds are strong between them.
Yes,
that's basically it. It's a
consciousness
power,
is
it's
a
the
funny
power of friendship.
Word.
It's the JRPG concept of the power of friendship. We've got to sever the bonds. Actually, that would have been better. Sever the bonds of the power of friendship because
there you go.
It is through the power of friendship that gods are destroyed in these worlds. That you can
do anything with the power of friendship.
Like
absolutely.
That's Ultima's like his first priority. We have to sever the bonds of friendship because only the bonds of friendship are power enough to kill me.
Very good.
That's basically what he's saying. Let's see here. So we cut back to Clive, and Joshua decides to show them the tapestry that he saw at the Phoenix Gate, right? The one with Ultima there. And it's all torn and incomplete. You see some of the dominants underneath it. And this is where he says, it is old, ancient even, the tapestry, not remains of the faith it represents, save what can be gleaned from the image itself.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that Barnabas grew up in this religion. His mother taught him it, and he was part of some cult.
And it wasn't even that long ago.
And it was not even that long ago.
Yeah.
None could tell me what the one in the apotry meant, even the Undying. But I believe it may be the key to discerning Ultima's purpose, which we'll get another scene next time we'll talk about, where he kind of pieces it together and figures it out. That figure in the center, the one beneath whom the icons congregate, that I believe to be Ultima.
Right.
He is a god,
Now,
or at least godlike.
That sentence right there threw me for a loop, because when we had seen this previously, I was not aware that underneath that dark-winged figure were anything like icons. It just seemed a chaotic mess of scribble.
Yeah.
Just not just like shadow and flames. But he brings up like, oh no, these are all the icons that are underneath this one. So it's essentially one ring to rule them all. So this is the one icon to rule all the others, but that underneath it are the other icons. I did not get that at first.
Yeah. Let's see. He's at least godlike. His very existence beyond our ken, icons, and by extension their dominance, are meant to be his subjects. And while some, like Barnabas, have accepted this role, others have rejected it, like you, Clive, which is rather inconvenient, as it appears he needs you most of all. And gods don't like to be disobeyed.
Gods don't like to be disobeyed.
No,
That's
I
great.
suppose they do not. Okay, so then he ends up doing the same incantation that they do for the Stolas owls over the head of Yote. Did you notice
Yes,
that?
that's right. Yes, he did. And he even said the same words that Elwyn said at the beginning.
Yes.
It was the same sentence.
So are the Undying capable of like accepting thoughts and memories to carry messages like Stolas's? I didn't understand why he did that.
Well, that's very interesting. Actually, now that I realize it, at the very beginning, remember how Elwyn sent that owl, but then the
dudes
killed it, but did it go to its target before they killed it?
No, probably not.
Unless the target was the Undying. Because now that we've only seen them two do it in the whole game, it's like, wait a second.
I think you might be right about
Wait
that.
a second. And especially now wondering, like, how did the Undying anyway?
Even know
what was
show
happening
up or
there and
whatever.
Joshua and all that stuff.
That's a good point.
It almost seems a bit to me like, whoa, these guys can like telepathically communicate with each other through this owl, and even though it seemed like the owl didn't make its mark, I wonder if maybe it did. I kind of hope that maybe it did, because the Undying just always being there in the shadows and nobody
Just
ever
watching,
notices them, and even what's her name, Annabella, doesn't
Not knowing about it.
like catch on that these people exist. Is a little bit too far for me. I would like to think that there's some society, but that they aren't always present, always, all the time, every
just
time,
like an
100 yards away from Joshua,
group
just in
of
case.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would make a little bit more sense. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility for sure. So, yeah, I mean, he does that incantation over her for whatever reason. Maybe they're capable of also accepting people's thoughts, telepathic thoughts. And then he tells her to go to the hideaway and take care of the people there, and she's, against it or whatever. But anyways, she leaves. She tries to tell him to, like, be careful or whatever. And then Clive comments, it's plain that she cares for you deeply. And I think he kisses her head, actually. Joshua kisses Yote's head. So they have something a little deeper than just a protector relationship. I think that they like each other more than that.
Well, they've been around each other for a very
A
long time,
for at
and
least
are similarly
18 years or
aged
whatever.
humans of opposite gender. I mean, like, come on. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's plain she cares for you deeply. And then Joshua says, and I her, which is why I had to let her go.
If you love somebody,
You can't
let
let
them
them be
go.
in danger.
Well, but if you love someone, let them go. Isn't that? Or if you love somebody, let them. If you
that-
love something, set it free. What is it?
The song lyric of some kind. It's not coming to me. But, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
And then
But I
it'll
can't-
come back to you, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, then they go to Canvar.
Well,
Oh,
this
wait,
is
no.
where Cyril. This
Yes,
is where
Cyril
we meet.
shows
yeah,
up, yes.
Cyril.
Yeah.
And this is very interesting. A bunch of hooded people. To not confuse us at all with any other hooded people we may have seen at any other point in the game.
Right.
There are more hooded people. These are part of the order of the Undyings that protect all of the nobility. Apparently there's lots of them, and Yote was one among several, and Cyril is like the leader, kind of
Yes,
them.
it seems that way, yes.
And for somebody who is always, I don't know, for this group that's always there and is always like protecting Joshua, and it's like their goal, and apparently they were even there the night that Joshua died, even though like, well, it's strange that they just don't follow him this time.
Yes.
That Josh was like, hey, I'm leaving. And they're like, you're going to be okay? Like, yeah, I got this. Clive's with me. Oh, cool. The guy who killed you last time? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, well, we'll see you later. And hopefully you don't die. Like, it just seems like their oath, that they're like, they're sworn to. I don't know that you can just like tell them to not come and then they're like cool with it. At least it didn't seem that way.
Yes.
The way that this whole thing is set up and how they just happen to be at the right place in the right time.
Yes.
Sounds like they're kind of always nearby.
Okay, so we've got a comment here from Tough Ham. Cyril gave off "I'm secretly evil" vibes.
Yes.
Now,
Clive, I got that too.
You did too. Okay.
I did.
Okay. I didn't, which is
You
why I
didn't?
was confused. Okay. I was confused as to why Clive reacts the way he does. Similarly to earlier, like this is an uncharacteristic sort of condescending response to Joshua. Because basically Cyril shows up, he says all the stuff he says, we are the Undying, this is our purpose, whatever.
We serve from the shadows.
All that stuff, right? And then Clive is being all suspicious about it, but when he knows exactly who these people are.
Right, and that they saved Joshua, and that is clear.
And then Joshua says something like, you have your associates and I have mine. I hope that's not a problem. Right. And Clive doesn't say like, oh, no, it's cool, or like, he just doesn't answer.
If you trust them, I trust them. Yeah, he just doesn't say anything.
He doesn't say anything. And then at the end of the conversation, he's like, we'll talk about this later. And then Cyril seemed very... You keep strange bedfellows, Joshua. But like, why? You know who these people are. Like, what are you? What's the suspicion about it? And to me, Cyril came off as just being like emotionless or sort of just like very I don't know. I guess we'd call it like just like purely rational in the way he speaks. He's not really, he doesn't emote much.
Yeah.
But I didn't get an evil vibe necessarily. And so I was unsure what Clive was reacting this way for. It was very confusing to me.
Well, my note here says, obviously we don't trust these Undying jokers I'm referring to Clive, I suppose, in that note. But and it could have just been Clive's reaction, but I did kind of get the feeling based on the way he was talking, the way he was dressed, the whole situation. We don't know who this guy is. He just showed up, and it's like, oh, these guys, they're cool. You can trust them. It felt a little too strange.
Yeah, weird.
I don't know.
So I guess that's what
Joshua, are you sure you're like cool with these people? I did kind of feel that as well.
Okay, so if other people are feeling that, I guess I just missed something. But I mean, you do a side quest later with Cyril in which Clive and Cyril seem to disagree on the methods of which the Undying go about what they do. Like, basically, they're investigating something, and you go there and you're fighting a bunch of Akashic, and they come over and they're like, oh, thank you. It's like, wait a minute, why didn't you come help me? And they're like, well, we had to finish our like observations or whatever we're studying.
See, the oath that they take, their job is more important than anything else, right? Yeah. But then they just let Joshua go anyways. I don't know.
Okay, so then they just like totally let their comrades die because what was more important was like finishing their observation. So then Clive goes back to Cyril and is like, hey, like,
not cool, man.
Why do you guys operate like this? He explains his reasons. Then they kind of debate that a little bit back and forth. And Clive says, look, it's not my place. I understand I'm not the heir like Joshua is, but like, you know, he probably would be more efficient in serving Joshua if he didn't just let people die like this. And he's like, duly noted your advice. I'm not listening to you, is more or less the response of Cyril. Well, so they have some tension in how he views the way in which they're going about doing what they're doing. So there is some suspicion planted there, I felt, but I guess I didn't feel it here.
Well, here's the question then. There's this group of several people, at least. Was Elwyn the only person who knew about them and literally nobody else knew about them?
Maybe
or did
Joshua.
Even Elwyn not? If Joshua knew, then I would assume Clive would have known
Clive
about
knew
them.
Because Clive told Jill in the scene who they were.
Okay, so Clive did know. You're right. Clive knew.
So Clive was aware of...
But Clive just doesn't know this guy. And he doesn't trust them, even though he does know who and what they are.
Yes, that's why I was.
That is a little strange.
That's why I was confused.
I see that now.
But if, like you're saying, and what even more people other than the tough Tharmr
saying they got the evil vibe. Rob said that.
They really got a evil vibe from this guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm just horrible at reading like evil vibes, but I don't know. I just got the sense that he was just impassionate or dispassionate, I should say, not necessarily evil, though. Tough Ham just bring this up, that he's a bit too alien. He emotes about as much as Ultima. Ultima is very much the same way.
It feels kind of like Ultima in that sense. That's true.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, the parallel.
He's giving off the similar sort of creepiness that Ultima does.
Yeah.
I could see that. So anyway.
Very Kingdom Hearts-esque.
A lot of Kingdom Hearts going on here.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so now they get to Canvar.
And it's all smoky.
And it's, the battles are going on inside.
Yep.
They go in, they find Gavin Mid and Byron. This is Byron's first time seeing Joshua since he had died at Phoenix Gate.
That's right, yes. Oh, dude, Byron's got to be on cloud 9. All these dead people, just his whole family's like coming back.
All coming back to life, dude.
That's crazy.
That's what happens when your nephew is the Phoenix. So they explain that the Akashic are fighting for Waloed, but that they're being controlled by someone, right? They're not acting on their own consciousness, their own wills or whatever.
Right.
Clive and Joshua believe it's Ultima controlling them. They decide to go help any of the remaining survivors in the city. There's some in the Merchants District and some across the river, so they split into two parties. And so at the end of this, where Clive goes into the Merchants District, he runs into Harbord,
that's right.
who decides to test him, right? Says, you've caused quite the commotion, but then I would expect no less of you, Muthos. Yeah. You again, I believe we haven't been introduced. You were at my family's crypt. He punched Kupka and carried him out, right? Yeah. And now you're here with an army of Akashic thralls. Manners, Lord Rossfield, they are men, like you and me, albeit ones unburdened by the wills that drive our kind to madness. They are pure, they are divine. And they are all that remains of this once raucous city. So everybody's been turned Akashic here in Canvar.
Yep, they're too late, it seems.
You'll pay for what you've done. As you wish, I confess I have been very much looking forward to this. Pardon me this indulgence, your majesty. The vessel shall not be spoiled. And then he gives his name. I think it's Sleipnir. Of House Harbor.
Sleipnir, yep.
And you will yield, or not, as long as you don't hold back. So.
The name Sleipnir is Odin's horse, Odin's chariot.
His 8-legged horse.
Yeah, his 8-legged horse. And do you know the father of Sleipnir?
It's Loki, isn't it?
Loki, that is correct. It's probably the best story in the Eddas. I don't know if I believe it was a legit story from the Eddas or if the person who wrote it down was just kind of making fun of the Norse gods.
Oh, sure.
Because we kind of know who wrote down the Eddas, and it's not somebody who was part of the culture. It was a Christian from somewhere else.
Oh.
But the Norse didn't really keep
good records.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So he was like, "Oh, I'll preserve this," because it was the old mythology of the Norse was preserved so well in the culture and the language, but it just wasn't written. It was all orally told, and so he kind of wrote them down. But he wrote them down in such a way to where the Christian rulers would accept it as not necessarily propaganda for another religion, right? So he kind of made Thor look stupider than he probably was.
Right.
He made Loki look more ridiculous than he probably was.
Yeah.
A lot of this kind of stuff happens, but the story is too good. I have to tell it. In fact, it might have been in Hellblade. I can't remember if the story was in. It might have been
one of the stories. Yeah.
So there was a giant who disguised himself as not a giant, I guess. He was disguised. He seemed a lot smaller. But he went up to the gods and told them that he could build a wall to keep the giants out of Midgard, basically. And so the gods are like, "Oh, that sounds sweet. Yeah, go ahead and build the wall." So he starts building, but they kind of they haggle, they negotiate, and he's like, "Oh, I can build this wall in like." He asks out for like a sum of money, like a ton of money. And they're like, "Oh, for that sum of money, I'd expect the wall to be built in 3 days." And the guy, they don't know he's a giant. And the guy's like, "Oh, okay, well, so let's see what happens." And so I can't remember if it was 3 days or 7 days or something. But basically, he starts building the wall and they realize he's building it really fast. So he's going to get, I can't remember who it was. I think it was like a wife or somebody. He was going to get like Odin or Thor's wife, or like he was going to get something way beyond what he, deserved, and they should not have made that
fast
promise,
enough, yeah.
but they had no idea that he was a giant. So he's building this whole thing, but he's got this horse that goes and gets like bricks and then brings them to him, and then he builds them up, and he's almost done. It's like one last brick left for the wall, basically. And the gods are like, okay, we got to do something. This is ridiculous. And Loki goes out and he shapeshifts into a horse, a female horse, so that the male horse
Won't bring the brick.
won't bring the brick and would go chasing this other horse.
Mythological stories
right?
are so freaking cool.
I love it. I love it.
They're really funny. Yeah.
They are, and this one gets really funny because it's one thing for Loki to have transformed into a horse and then run away to lure the other horse. Like, okay. But the other horse catches Loki. And let's just say... However long the gestation time of a horse, later, that much time passes, and Loki gives birth to a child.
So he's like the father and mother of Loki, or of Sleipnir.
He is. He's technically the mother, I guess. But, yeah. So Sleipnir. But this isn't even that unusual. He also, Jormungandr, the world serpent, was also one of Loki's children. And I think Fenrir,
the wolf.
Yeah, the wolf.
Yeah.
That was like 1,000 feet tall. Not that tall.
Loki had a lot of,
but his kids are all like these like
Animals.
animal creatures basically.
Yeah.
But and then of course Sleipnir, and then Odin finds Sleipnir and is just like, whoa, this horse is sick. It's got 8 legs. That means it's faster than all the other horses, right?
Yeah.
So he takes it and he's like, this is my new horse. Anyways, that's just a wonderful story. I love that story, and I just imagine Tom Hiddleston. Just having an unfortunate encounter with a horse.
Yeah, it was really funny. So anyways, that's where that name comes from. One thing that is not clear to me, because it's revealed here a little later, that Harbard is a creation of Odin in this world's mythology, not in the real Norse mythology. He's like, he can be, and you fight like a bunch of him later, like 50 of him later.
Yes, they just replicate,
and they weren't like nearly as strong as the boss was, and it was kind of weird.
I thought they would be, and
he says he's from the House Harbard, and so it's like, okay,
was this an Olivier thing, or like was he a real person?
If he's the creation of Odin, then he's of no house, I guess. He's just like some creation of a god. He's not like born of the House Harbard. So I was a little confused on this point as to why he said that, unless he's just lying about it, I guess. And that's his so he's created by Barnabas or by Odin or Ultima's power or whatever. But then like they gave him an alias, which is this House Harbard thing, and he just I don't know.
Well, Chocolate Rob has an answer here that says Harbard is an Aggie like Benedicta's sisters. Remember her? I forgot about them.
Yep.
There were like these harpy girls that were like...
she could create them.
Yes. So I guess that's what Harbard is. So while Harbard says he's of the House of Harbard, he may just be lying.
Yeah, well, Tough Ham is saying that the ATL says House Harbard is not recorded anywhere in history, so it's a fabricated thing.
There you go.
So he's just lying.
So he's just like, I'm from the noble. Oh, you haven't heard of the House Harbard, have you? It's high up. It's high and mighty, I promise.
Yeah.
Tell everyone I'm the House of Sperry. Oh, you haven't heard of the House of Sperry? Oh, have I got stories for you?
That's funny. Okay, so you fight him, and you kill him, and he says, "The vessel is strong, my liege," and he dies.
The vessels are strong, my lord. Rip them all down.
Rip them all down. And then Barnabas
shows up.
Where he cuts the freaking castle in half.
That's the craziest thing. The way that happens is just you would never see that coming.
Yeah.
A million miles away.
Crazy. And I like how he picks up just a normal sword off the ground at first.
That's
and
right.
And he just like plays with Clive for a while. He's obviously a very, very like elite swordsman. Mm-hmm. I mean, Clive is too, but like Clive is like no match for this guy. His swords, his skill with a blade.
Oh, he's got some skill with a blade. That is very good. Very evident.
Way above Clive's.
By the way, before we get too far, Chocolate Rob has a really good point here. He says that Harbard means hairy beard, which is a reference to Odin. So when Harbard says, I am of the house of the hairy beard, I'm a house of the hairy bearded one.
Yes.
That is referring to Odin in a way. So
Odin himself.
He could be saying, I am, the spawn of Odin.
Got it. So he just beats the fetch out of him.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
they're having some conversations back and forth. And he eventually becomes, he says, wild and impetuous, I expected more of the boy who bested my Lord Commander. You see, why my master covets you, the power within you, Mythos, the potential. Stop calling me I laughed so hard. Stop calling me Mythos. Like the pronunciation is
It's
so
pronounced Mythos, you idiot.
weird.
Don't call me Mythos.
But it's like the voice actor is trying so hard to deliver that line very seriously. It's just, stop calling me Mythos. I was just laughing out loud.
I love that, man.
But Mythos is everything. The cornerstone of all creation, the Lord's vessel, your purpose. And he's like, my purpose? To surrender my mind and body to that thing? This started to bother me about some of the dialogue later because he states it there that he understands it. Clive is like, my purpose? To surrender my mind and body to that thing?
Yes.
No. And then later on, he's like, your purpose. He brings up, what is my purpose?
What do you mean?
And he's like, your purpose. Well, but what is that exactly? You just said it. Anyway, my purpose is my own. I made a promise to my friends, I'm going to, not do what Ultima wants.
Right. The idea is that Clive says he's made a new purpose.
Yeah.
And then Barnabas says, you would allow this delusion of free will to bar your path to greatness? Clive's volition is a cancer to be excised.
To be excised. And that's when he grabs his Odin sword that can cut anything.
The big one, yeah.
And it's just like, it cuts nigh on every sinew, I believe is what,
except,
as Joshua puts it.
Yes, which is crazy. Except whatever is vital to survive.
Yes.
Because it was like he intentionally
left him alive.
Clive in a manner that he would not die.
Yeah. And so he just falls to the ground, and Joshua comes to take him out while Jill stays behind to fight the king. She primes, fully primes into Shiva, and he defeats her and takes her captive. So Joshua is able to use his Phoenix healing powers to save Clive. And he says, Barnabas may have severed nigh every sinew in my brother's body, but he made certain the wounds were not fatal.
Exactly.
And I love Byron's response to this because Byron comes walking, he's like, nigh on every sinew. And
yes,
later,
literally, uncle.
And then later when all the Harbards spawn in, he's like, don't you have any normal enemies? This is crazy. What the F is going on?
That's right.
What am I involved in here?
Oh, that was good.
It was really funny. But they tell Clive as he wakes up, hey, Jill wasn't found. She never came back.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's cool. Which really surprised
she's
me.
Fine. One of the things was I can still feel the icon lives, and so she's fine.
Yes.
Right. She could be getting tortured and but it's she's fine. She's fine.
Yeah. Basically, apparently the icons or the dominants can sense the aether from
that's right. Yeah,
the life force, the ether from the other dominant, so they know she's alive still.
Maybe in particular, would it be any dominant, or would it just be
Jill
Clive?
And Clive? That I don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know.
Maybe it's any dominant.
But at least they have Joshua too, because Joshua was the one who actually says the line. It's like, I can still feel her ether. So Joshua and Clive are able to sense that she's still alive.
So if you can feel her ether and she's still alive, then that means she's fine. Oh, speaking of Josh, there's one line here that we kind of skipped over. When we first get to Canvar and Joshua sees Mid for the first time.
Oh, that's right. That's
Joshua
funny.
drops to his knees and takes her hand and my lady. And I'm like, ooh, goodness. Okay. So Joshua and Yote have some relationship, but Joshua seemed quite smitten with Mid. I thought that was very interesting.
And she was like, what the F are you doing?
What are you doing?
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, so can we catch them? So the Einherjar is already taken off. It's one of the fastest, largest vessels ever built.
Yes.
And now we got to go on this, again, this is where I was confused, because it was the ship has already taken off with Jill to go back to Waloed. And they're like, but my ship's not ready yet. There's a problem. And I need you to go and do all these side quests, basically, to oh no, go get my father's writings.
That's right.
At the Hideaway, so that I can finish the last touch. And
Isn't
so they
that
travel
insane? By the way, because
all the way back to the hideaway on foot,
Yes.
or even by chocobo, I don't know.
And then come back.
And then come all the way back,
still catch.
build the fetching thing, and across a strait. This is not like open ocean for like 500 or 600 miles. It's a strait between two continents that are like right next to each other.
And we catch the Einherjar.
Like, how long does it really take to walk back around this continent? I'm so confused about the size
what
of it.
we call fast travel. It really maybe
actually,
it's just teleportation.
I think you're right. There is a diegetic
stones,
element to it.
There's teleportation.
But
right?
I don't. Okay, we need an ATL.
It's those stones.
We need an ATL here. Does somebody actually know? But then why aren't they using them otherwise? Why are they walking on foot everywhere in other scenes? Like when they went from the hideaway to Tabor, right? Why didn't they just use the teleport freaking fallen relic things to like
I
get
actually
closer?
have not understood that throughout.
Maybe it's because
game.
a lot of times when you go into a new area, you sort of have to like
you have to
approach
activate it first,
like activate or unlock it,
right? Like a shrine in Zelda.
So maybe it's that, but like, are they like diegetically using those things to fast travel around, like teleport? Is that what they're doing? Because that would make way more sense than the fact that they just walked back to the hideaway and then walked back to, and then like.
I'll bet you it's that. But can all of them do it? I don't know. I guess so.
Because that would make way more sense. Tough Ham is saying, no, I don't think so. Nobody knows what those markers are for. Sorry, no answer to that, says Rob.
Okay.
So, yeah, it appears to me that they're walking around and like literally halfway across a continent to go get some notes.
Longer than it
all the way back,
and they do that faster than it would take a ship to sail
across a strait.
Like say 7, 10
I mean,
miles,
I know
20
ships
miles,
were not
miles.
necessarily fast. I mean, these things were probably going 10 miles an hour maximum, depending on the wind.
That's faster than I can walk. I'd be running.
But like, it's still just crazy to me. The sense of time and scale of these places and how fast they can go to places. I don't really understand it. It seems off. It seems just very unnecessary for this problem to exist in the story.
Yeah.
It's like it was just an excuse to give you more side quests and more stuff to do instead of just, hey, the ship's ready. Let's go right now. We can still catch them. Because you've probably been, I don't know, bedridden, I would at least think one night.
Yes.
It's got one day.
What does Joshua say? The phoenix can heal flesh, but the spirit must recover on its own.
Yeah.
Is one of the things Joshua says, referring to Clive, who is still sleeping. Right. Yeah, they could have easily done this on their own.
Anyway. But there's like a ton of other side quests you can do. They all open up like right now. Again, and this is not a unique thing to this game. This is a kind of a meme of all RPGs of this type. It's like imminent doom is about to happen on the planet. And it's like, nope, we're going to go like breed chocobos now and, like go do all this random stuff around. And the meteor will just wait to like crash until we're done with all that. So this is not like a unique criticism of this game as much as it is just, it just seems like weird timing generally. But anyway, you go do all that and bring the writings back to Mid, and she's able to finish the building the ship engines. All right, can we catch them? The Einherjar is the largest, fastest vessel ever built, or one of them ever built, and it won't help that she has the wind at her back. Any other ship would be hard-pressed to keep pace with her, let alone reel her in, but this isn't any other ship. This is the Enterprise, and the world hasn't seen anything like my dad's engine.
My dad's way better than all of your dads.
Exactly.
There's this other line, too, as we see Barnabas on his ship going away. He says, power beyond reckoning, and they use it as a crutch. Such a waste. Actually, that's when he attacks the girl, Jill.
Yeah.
Right? And he's just like, they're using their power to get away, to retreat and run away. And he's like, you have the power of God and you're using it to like sneak out and like run away.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? He cannot believe, his mind cannot compute like how these people are behaving with these powers.
Yeah. He was indoctrinated at a young age. He gave up his free will a long time ago.
Yep.
Joshua asks Clive if he knows anything about Barnabas, and Clive says only what the bard's saying, that he sailed to Ash from southern lands. So his mother took him away, I think it says in the ATL, because of the persecution, their religion, whatever.
Right.
They went to some southern land, and then he came back later after she was killed there by some rival religion or whatever, and took over.
Yeah.
So he sailed back to Ash from southern lands. That it was his mastery of the blade which won him the throne, and that his sword, Odin's sword, can sever the very threads of creation. But don't lose any sleep over our last tilt. We'll do what we must to survive. So then they get attacked, and there's the whole scene with 50 harbards attacking them, and then they jump on the ship
crazy.
at the last second.
As the ship leaves and Clive jumps, barely makes it.
Yeah, I think the line from Joshua is, "Confound it, then it is as I feared. Sleipnir is no man, but a creation of Odin." This line from they have some really clever sort of like in-universe sort of curse words and things like that. Yeah. Phoenix's fiery fundament. Have you no normal
Fiery
enemies?
fundament.
Now, that's not really a curse word necessarily. But
it's
later,
used in a way like that. Though.
Yeah. Later, Mid says great Grieger's gash.
Yes. That's pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
So Joshua often talks about the founders, right? Or the fundament, right? A foundation, a founder. Yep. He talks about by the founders, right? Or the founders, they found us, and each one of them uses the words of the gods of wherever they're from. Yeah. Right? So Mid talking about Grieger. That's pretty hilarious. Gash. And then Joshua always saying founders, the founders. Oh no. Thank the founders you're alive. Like, what is he talking about? I looked it up, and the founders is essentially a reference to those who founded Rosaria. Yeah. Right. And they, it started out as a small thing and grew into a bigger thing. But the founders were these benevolent, people who were just trying to do good. But they rose to the status of something like at least a saint, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ship takes off.
But while we're there too, this is worth noting. It takes us a while, first off, to find Mid stuff because it's not in an obvious place. We basically have to go to the. You have to go. They call it the orchestron, but it's
the thing that plays the music.
The jukebox. You got to hit up that jukebox, and that's where you find it. But during this time, I think it's revealed that this is when Dion leaves.
Yeah, he had left.
So Dion woke up and he left.
He took off.
My first thinking was like, oh shoot, that's not good. But Clive is just like. Yeah, well, he's having a hard time. Like, so what? He doesn't care. Like, they've got other stuff to do.
I was disappointed that Dion wasn't going to become a party member. I was thinking that's where it was going.
I thought so too.
That would have been, if this was a Final Fantasy in 1998, that would have been the case.
First Esquire, then Dion, and no, none of them. We don't get any of those guys.
I was upset. I was like, dang it, they're not going to do it, man. Yeah, but that's a good point to point that out. He had taken off. Okay, so as they're sailing, Byron leaves the ship. He's going to head back into the Republic. He's got his buddy Randala, who's got an army. He's going to go recruit his help. He's like, next time you see me, nephews, I'll be with an army at my back. Don't go, dying on me again or whatever.
Same to him.
So he takes off, and then... let's see. Then we get a scene with Dion. We cut to Dion, who's like stumbling his way. Again, dude can barely walk.
Yeah, he's like using his spear as a
Hideaway
crutch.
All the way to Twinside without provisions, without provender, without...
And then he happens to faint just as the medicine girl shows up. And it's like, oh, you lucky man,
it's
you.
like, then I was kind of upset by this, too. It's like, oh, this is what they're going to use the medicine girl for. This was it. This is what they set up. She's just going to help Dion with some potions.
Hey, they all need...
where this was going. That was the freaking setup for this? Really?
Yeah, well.
I thought she was going to be like an Ultima puppet or something. More interesting than just like, oh, she was just this innocent
an altruistic young girl selling
who
potions.
Helps Dion, I guess.
Yep.
So a lot of things that appear to be kind of like dead ends that were set up earlier. I'm finding, they're not coming together the way I was hoping.
Makes you wonder if there was something else planned, or if that we were reading too much into the early stuff, or if it was presented in such a way that maybe it's just stuff to like throw you off or to give you mysteries.
So the potion girl's there. She helps him out. He's going to be okay. Then we cut back to they're on the sea. They're catching up. Oh, they're talking about the direction they need to go. Head north,
Right.
Around Zemeckis to put through the Narrow. That's the direction he would have gone. Because I think Clive brings up, well, why would you assume it's that way? Why not south around the freaking entire continent? Don't be stupid. Like, why would anyone sail that way and make the journey like 5 times longer?
Clive's like, I'm just saying what if, okay?
Right?
That's great.
Anyway, so like, yeah, that's Mid knows what she's talking about. That's where he went. So let's go after it. Now, this next set piece is freaking sick. It's my favorite in the whole game by far. Like where you fight Odin at the bottom of the ocean after he has sliced it.
So
like,
cool.
Moses style.
Yes. I couldn't tell exactly
awesome.
what was happening initially and what it turned into. Because at first I was like, this boat stuff, like, first off, I never thought I'd be on a boat. But it also it was all right. It was fun. It was kind of cool. It wasn't exactly what I hoped it would be. No, you do not get to sail it. But as the battle begins to happen, it is pretty cool. The way that the battle is presented, the way the ships kind of run into each other and then separate, and then I thought it was cool. And then the way that Clive jumps over, but Joshua stays. And that's how Odin is able to kind of deal with them one at a time to prevent them from merging together again like they did against Bahamut.
Yeah.
And I thought it was actually pretty cool. But then once that opened up, once the oceans opened wide, the jaws of the ocean opened.
It's freaking sweet.
Like Charybdis from the Odyssey. All of a sudden it's just whoa, this got a lot cooler. Like the scale all of a sudden just felt bigger. I felt like I was in an epic story again, like the Odyssey or something like that.
Yeah.
And the boat just kind of skirts the edge and barely doesn't fall down. And I swear, one of the second or third Pirates of the Caribbean movie does something like that with the what's it called, the whirlpool, but the thing at the whirlpool at the bottom of the whirlpool, I can't remember what it is. Basically Charybdis from the Odyssey, maybe the Kraken, something like that.
Yeah,
was that what it was?
I don't remember that.
It was like a squid Kraken thing. Yeah. But that was really, really super cool. And the whole Moses parallel kind of went over my head initially because I was just this is insane. Odin sliced a hole in the water and it's like Pirates of the Caribbean, but everything was coming together in this really cool way. And then of course the boat falls into it and we're at the bottom. And it took me a minute to register because when the boat falls, I think the screen cuts to black or something for a little bit. And then it shows them getting out of the boat. And I'm like, they shipwrecked? They're just skipping this whole, and it took me maybe 20 seconds or so to register. They're at the bottom of the ocean. And all of a sudden everything was just oh, this is cool again. I started to get really excited again. It almost like that Kupka fight, which apparently a lot of people didn't love as much as I did.
Yeah,
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
But it just kind of one-upped itself and then just became even more epic, all at once. I could not believe it. It was so cool.
It was a very, very cool set piece. Again, I loved this concept of this sword that can cut anything as a mythological power or sort of concept for the story.
There are lots of myths similar to this.
Yeah. I wish that they had come up with a more clever way to find a way to best Barnabas, who has this unstoppable power. Because, an idea that just came to me as I was playing it, right, is Clive gets cut.
Yeah.
And, all the sinews get cut and he just freaking, falls over incapacitated. But Phoenix can bring him back.
Right.
So what if a battle had been set up where if you take a single hit from Barnabas at all, you basically lose all your health and Joshua has got to bring you back. But then you have to also protect Joshua because if Joshua gets hit, then the fight's over. You could create
this could have been
clever.
This could have been interesting.
You could create a clever sort of combat scenario that's different, has a gimmick to it.
Yeah,
that's different than they usually are. If this was a turn-based RPG, it might be a little bit easier to set this up.
Yeah.
But I felt okay, we've got a mechanism set up here where if the three dominants and icons work together, because I thought it was so stupid that when he initially fights Barnabas, he's like, you guys stay back. I'll handle it. Dude, you got three dominants right there.
I know, dude.
All of you fight him right now. And just,
everyone.
So whatever, his hubris got the better of him. He thinks he's all that.
I thought that's what was happening because he tells Jill, he's like, Jill, stand back. And Jill's like, are you sure? And he looks at him. He's like, trust me. Like, okay. And then we proceed to get our freaking butt kicked. Like, he did not. I thought he had a plan up his sleeve. I was like, hey, this is the second fight. Like, we're going to beat. We're going to win this time, right? And Clive's like, wink, wink, like, trust me on this one.
Trust me. I got it.
It's basically, trust me, you're too weak to fight.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Like, thank you.
Well, and that part is true. She was weakened from being imprisoned.
Yes.
And that's why he's telling her to leave. But he had no plan to fight him.
I think I know what's happening here now. So I read it as, trust me, I learned his weakness. I can win this fight. Instead, I think it was, you go away because he'll kill you. But trust me, he won't kill me.
Yes.
Right? Like, I don't know how to beat him.
Because there's a reason
but he won't
left
kill me
alive. He's not going to kill me.
So maybe that's how I should have read that scene.
Yes.
But the way I read it initially was like, wink, wink, like, trust me. Anytime in a movie where a character's like, trust me, it's always like, oh, they figured something out.
Yeah,
like
he's being clever.
Win.
But Clive is not clever at all.
All that he figured out was
this whole game, he has never been that.
Yes. And once again, he really still kind of isn't. But at least his trust me was that, hey, trust me, I didn't figure out how to kill him, but I found out how to not die. But it only works for me. So you run away, and I will face him, get whooped, but I won't die.
But I won't die.
I'll see you later.
Yeah. Because I'm Muthos. He can't kill me.
Mirthos, yes.
Anyway,
yes.
I just feel like there was some wasted potential here to create some sort of clever scenario where the three of them work together to get around this huge mythological power that, like, you can't just face Odin alone. He can cut through anything. But with the three of us combining our powers, we're able to sort of, like, hedge or like... It was kind of the same way with the Bahamut fight, actually. It's like Ifrit alone would not have been able
he would have died.
to fight Bahamut.
Yeah.
Bahamut was way stronger than him. But when you have the Phoenix who can fly, combined, those powers were enough. And so, like, if you had the three of them working together in some clever way to get around this otherwise unbeatable icon, I feel like that just would have been way stronger than just Clive saying, like you're saying, oh, I'll just try again. And then... and then, like, at the end of this whole sequence,
his whole life.
You get, like, the whole, objective complete little, like, visual thing.
Did you read the text?
Clive bested.
Clive bested? But was that a typo?
No, it's just...
Isn't it supposed to say...
It's basically just saying you completed your mission, but your mission was Clive got bested.
Clive got... I thought it was Clive bested.
No. Clive was bested by Odin.
But, okay, so I read it correctly. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. So I read it right and it's supposed to be that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's, like, really funny.
It's really funny.
That's really funny. Oh my gosh! I guess they couldn't make you think that you lost. You reset your console because, like, I lost. If it played, like, sad music, you're
supposed to lose.
That's funny.
Anyways, it's pretty funny.
Oh, my jaws, my cheek hurts.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny stuff happening in this episode. Okay, so last scene, I think we're going to cover... Well, no, there's more dialogue we need to go over. More... And again, they're just repeating a lot of the same stuff, and it's really not as deep as they're, like... The way they say it, it comes across as, this is, like, super important, like, deep concepts. Like, we need to, like, dialogue and have this out and debate. But it's like free will or no free will. It's, like, really all it boils down to.
Yeah, and that's what Odin keeps telling him. Odin's just like, you don't realize you can't control your fate. Yes, I can control my fate. Okay, this is like the fourth time we've come back.
I know, you've been saying this over and over again at this point.
Yeah.
Also, the thing that disappoints me about this is there really is a good philosophical conversation you can have about whether free will exists or not. Well, like that is like a real point of contention that it has some substance to it.
Yeah,
but they're not even touching that in this at all. It's the most surface level sort of like, no, Ultima says no. Well, I say yes.
and you know what? And that's Clive, what would you call it? The Clive is embodying something of the fool archetype throughout this game, where it's like the fool, but the fool who who is it? Like the fool who points out that the emperor's not wearing clothes. Or something.
Yes,
like
right,
the
right,
fool who is a fool, but is like okay with admitting that he's a fool and that he doesn't know, but he ends up being right in the end, even though he's a fool, and that the wised who think they are learned are not what they think they are. All that kind of stuff. That's what they're playing at, because I don't think they wanted to get too deep into the game. But one way that you can do this is to have the bad guy be so philosophical, but the good guy just be like, I'm not into your words and your philosophies and your concepts. Like, I just don't care. I am gonna do the opposite of what you tell me, and it doesn't. First off, I don't understand what you're saying, but second off, screw you, I'm going to do my own thing. But that's like the point, So he's embodying the idea of choosing your own destiny, almost in ignorance of all other potential options.
Right.
But that it's the human way of doing things. It's the humanity that's how we do stuff.
Right.
we aren't all we don't like talk through things. We just kind of go on emotion, and a lot of things have that similar. But the way that they're pulling it off. The way they're trying to pull it off is because if Clive was more philosophically minded, we would have some Xenogears level stuff here.
I know,
but
they
aren't interested.
They could do with
They
this.
didn't want to do that.
No, they clearly didn't.
And it's clear. And the way they did it was, well, let's just make Clive really just dense and not get it. And kind of like more of a Titus, FF10 Titus type character.
Right.
And then have this guy's philosophies fall on dead ears as if playing Mozart to a tree rug. and that's just how we're going to get around it, right? We don't, that way some of the deeper thinkers can have their philosophy, but then the people who just want to play the game can just skip through it and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, so here's some of the dialogue here. This consciousness in which you coil your feeble souls is grown thick with desperation. I mean, it's like they're just like laying it on in terms of like the way the dialogue's written.
But I could hear Clive being like, "You think my consciousness is thick? Oh, how nice of you!"
And thus,
I always thought my consciousness was pretty thick.
And
it's
thus,
good to hear
has
from
my
you.
master turned to my blade, the world will soon be painted black, and all that live shall gather in death's autumn wake. Not if we remove the cause of this misery. Not if we destroy the last of the mother crystals and restore balance to the world. A lot of this dialogue, I'm just starting to kind of like turn my brain off for it. It's just like, okay, guys, get it already. Come, do you truly think it's so simple? The blight is inevitable. Not even the Almighty might stop its endless march. Your efforts will avail us not that is, but suffering. You must embrace the truth, Muthos. Accept your place with the Lord. I liked that line, though.
Yeah, that was
he's like clearly like indoctrinated cult mindset.
Oh, totally.
Keep it. As long as there's a chance, there's a choice. It's you're just flowering up no you. That's all it is.
No, you.
Ever led
hilarious.
astray by your blind resolve, now it is time you learn the inevitability of your divine fate, however much it may hurt. And I think that's when he slices or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, beats us up again. Do you not, they go on and on after this. Do you not see your iron will weighs you down, dragging you even further from your purpose? And what is my purpose? And I wrote, you just said it. Like in the last time we fought it. Muthos. Why are we, who are we? What are the dominants? The breath of the Creator still warms our lips.
Yeah, I like that line.
That line's pretty good.
That's cool.
We carry his light that we might guide the masses in his name. We are but mighty acts of God. We're more than that. No, you.
Isn't that a weird thing to say? Like if I told you, Mike, you are an act of God, would you respond like, I'm offended?
No, I'm way better than that.
More than like, whoa, dude, that was basically a high compliment.
I believe it's like your only purpose is to serve
good.
God. No,
yes.
I have a higher purpose than just serving, being a servant. But I know what you mean.
Yes. Just pretty funny.
You would be nothing without what he has granted you. The world, the power we yield is his, and yet every time we draw upon it, it wears away at our very being. It breaks us. It unmakes us. This is how they change into icons. It actually physically breaks their bodies and remakes them into its immaculate aspect, or that its immaculate aspect might reveal itself, the icon. It is too much for even his chosen few apart from you, Muthos. You wield a might of many, yet your body does not answer for its avarice. What are you saying? Good question.
You
what the fetch are you saying?
Yeah.
What I am saying is that we dominants are a means to an end. We were created for, I think I took that down wrong. We were created that you might, or created for you. We, the other dominants, were created for you, mythos.
Right.
That you might drink deep of our strength and thereby fulfill your divine purpose, which is to feed. As you would know.
To devour, to become one, but so he would be the one incorporating others into his body, growing his body, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that's sort of what he's doing when he takes the other dominants' power.
Yeah.
Right? He's consuming their
feeding on
their aether abilities, yeah.
As you would know, could you only look beyond the walls of your prison of self-regard. As long as you choose to ignore this, you shall never penetrate my defenses. Still, you may take solace in the fact that you are not alone in your plight. The chains of volition shackle all of mankind, but there is yet cause to rejoice, for the Lord in his mercy has taken pity on his flawed creations, and shall see them restored to their proper forms. What are those? And then, why loyal servants to God? And then he has a flashback of what Harbert said about Akashic, and he's like, oh, he means Akashic. Everyone's going to be turned Akashic. That's the pure form of humans, of humanity.
It's like the zombie, but it's, what would you call it? It's the mind-controlled masses, right, that are being manipulated by the marionette holding puppet master, which is Ultima.
You mean to turn everyone Akashic, not turn mythos, turn back. For too long, so that this is what they used to be, what we all used to be. For too long has mankind been led astray by their clamorous wills. It is time they returned to a world of quiet equality, where they might once more know salvation. Salvation and abandon everything we hold dear.
And this is Jill, right?
Yeah. We don't need your salvation. We'll save ourselves. We'll do it on our own terms, not yours and not your God's. With every defiant expression of your will, the tighter the chains of consciousness become. But perhaps that fact may be put to use. The faster it binds you to the remaining dominants, the stronger your hunger will become, until it leads you back to the only answer there ever was. Mayhap not by the path my master intended, but back all the same. Clive.
Now that one is interesting to me, where it's like, what path in particular is he referring to here?
Yeah.
And saying, well, it's not the one that my master intended, but it'll yield the same result.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, well, that's I want to know more about that.
Yep. Okay, so then we get we'll cover one more scene here between Jill and Clive.
Oh, I do want to throw in one more line here from Mid when they're chasing after the Einherjar. Mid is kind of standing at the helm of the ship. She's all the way at the front, and she says this line, let's see what this girl can do, right?
Yep.
And she's referring to her ship.
The ship, yeah.
But also maybe referring to herself.
Yeah.
Right? She's young. She hasn't done things like this before. This is the big moment for her. I mean, she's done big stuff, but like this is, like we're attacking Odin, and anyways, it's going to be like dodge a massive like crater in the water that you can't get swept into.
I think she dodged one of his swipes too.
Yes, that was good.
And the whole ship just
the whole ship. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Veers around it.
Starboard side. Yeah, that was fun.
Yep.
But yeah, she's referring to herself and the ship in that moment. So I always like it when you can work in lines that are saying two things at once.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, that's about it. So let's move on.
Yeah. So. Jill basically
this scene.
freezes a path as the water's coming down on them to get them to ash.
Out of the water, yeah.
So they literally run however far
it fades to black.
Ash.
Well, she says don't look back.
Freezing the freaking water the whole way.
And that takes a huge toll on her.
Hold on, we got a thing here from Tough Ham. Do you think it makes sense in terms of writing consistency that Barnabas didn't kill Jill?
Same thing with Kupka.
So
dominance can't kill Jill. I think
it makes sense that he didn't kill her earlier. He took her captive to draw Mythos back out, right? To come back and.
But then he let her go.
Here, on the ocean floor, I don't. Yeah, probably.
Right. That's what Alan is saying. Why didn't he start cutting off Clive's reasons for living? If that was his goal.
Yeah. That's a good point. But he had sent Jill away, like, hey, run away as fast as you can. Let me fight him. But then she just comes back. Like, oh, no, Clive!
Quickly. And then with the dog, too, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, they've gone to this, area of a rocky coast. They're on Ash now. And,
yeah.
Let's see. How would I summarize this because I don't want to read the whole dialogue. I don't think
No.
it's necessary to do that.
They're by the fire, and I'm guessing they're drying their clothes
There's been
because their clothes got wet.
This
That's
has got to
my
be.
guess.
There's got to be some post action. I don't know. Maybe not.
No,
maybe this is
it
not the
seems
right
pre
moment for
because
that.
they cut to yeah.
Well, yeah, it didn't seem like the right moment. But you're probably right.
It
Drying
didn't feel.
clothes
They
or
had their
something.
backs to each other. It didn't feel intimate at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're drying their clothes. That's my
became
best
that way
guess.
towards the end of the scene.
Yes, the end of the scene when they finally commit to each other and they basically get married. Like he says, like till death do us part, I will remain committed to you forever.
Yeah, right.
Like, whoa, that's a big commitment right there, or that's a big thing to say. That's essentially a marriage vow.
Yeah.
And then, that happens afterwards.
But again, we've kind of talked about this. I can't remember which podcast or if it was even the old podcast before he switched to this format, but about, the use of nudity or sexuality. I think it was actually a topic we were going to do on the old podcast.
And then we didn't. That's right. We had a whole Google Doc of like topics
Yeah,
we never really
but
got around
like
to.
I love how it's handled here with such maturity. Like, it's not really the point of the scene. Like you said, they're probably just drying their clothes or whatever. But like, it's like it's there, but like. It's not like most anime where it'd be, oh my gosh, it's like all embarrassing and like they like make a huge point
You're
about
right,
it
actually.
and like
I like
point
that
it
about
out.
the scene. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's I love
she's all embarrassed.
how
it's not like that.
maturely it's all handled and
Yeah.
they're vulnerable is really what it's
Yeah,
representative of.
Yeah.
Like they have been stripped naked in the sense that they have no idea how they can they can't fight this guy.
Right.
He has stripped them. He has embarrassed them
Yes.
multiple times now.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just kind of in this place where like, what do we even do now? Right. That is more the sense of the point of them being naked in the scene.
Yeah.
Not to suggest something sexual. Right.
Also, that there is something to the idea of like their what would you call it? Their feelings, their emotions are laid bare.
Are bare.
That there's no more a veil betwixt the two. But there is at first because they aren't facing each other. Like they aren't. They are maybe out of respect or not, but they are refusing to uncover one of the other's nakedness.
Yeah.
But they eventually, as they keep talking, they begin to voice their true feelings, their inner. Mind, and that's essentially where they decide finally they like turn towards each other, and it's like, oh, sweet, this after 18 years or whatever. Let's
let's finally do this.
You like me, really?
Yeah.
But at first it was, oh, I know what you need, I'm going to give you what you need. I'm like, okay, that's a little interesting, like lead up to sex, but then he takes her abilities. And I don't know why. I had never thought up to this point, like, whoa, we don't have Jill's abilities. Yeah. We could easily have them.
We haven't been given
Has she not
yet.
blessed somebody? And it doesn't take anything from her, right? So, like...
Well, that's the thing I'm confused about.
Well, because Josh kind of gets upset, but yeah.
That's the thing. And
I
we'll
don't
go over that
think it
next
takes
time.
anything from them.
But, like, Joshua gave the blessing willingly, and he still has Phoenix's powers.
Yes.
Benedicta, they were stolen from her. At first, she appeared to no longer have them.
Well,
but then she got them back.
Exactly.
So it may be just
abundance.
some passage of time. And then,
Yeah.
but he also did the same thing with Kupka with their first fight. And then he primes into Titan later and you fight him. So it doesn't appear that taking the blessing really takes away at all.
I don't think
their
so.
power as a dominant or icon.
Yeah.
Or if it does, it's for some very short period of time. So she's still going to be able to prime and, use Shiva's power. It's just maybe she'll be weakened for some short period. So, like, what is the drawback?
They could have done this at the Hideaway. They could have done this 5 years ago. Like, they could have done this before, and it would have really kind of helped Clive to have more abilities.
It begs the question,
stuff.
why wasn't this done earlier? If the penalty or if there's no cons really for Jill, it's just like for a short while maybe. But she doesn't even like using the powers anyway. She only primes when she has to. She hates it.
Yeah.
So it's like a curse. She considers it like a curse. So I don't really know. But she hasn't given him Shiva's blessing yet, which I was also like, yeah, like, why not? But, he's sitting here being like, I can't beat this guy. I'm powerless against him. Well, maybe there's nothing for it then than to just give himself to your master, like he's saying, but I know you won't do that. Well, how do you know I won't do that? You don't really know me. Yes, I do. And she's like giving support, right?
Yeah. He also says, each time I summon the flames from within, I burn away the things that make me who I am.
Yeah, that's a good line.
I thought that was quite a good line.
Yeah.
And this is essentially, he feels like when he reaches down into the shadow to like call forth this being, that the shadow kind of takes control over him, not completely, not like before, but like a little bit. He's like embracing the unconscious shadow in a way that he doesn't really like feel comfortable with, I guess. But Jill understands it really well. He even uses the word monster, right? He says that I feel like I'm a monster sometimes. And Jill had her whole thing. She knows exactly what that feels like.
Yeah. Rob here is saying the blessing of the Phoenix is a low power version, like 10 to 20%. What Clive takes is much higher. How are you coming to that
What
conclusion?
about Jill? What about what Jill gives?
Yeah.
So when you take, you get more, but when it gets given freely, you get less?
How did you come to that conclusion? Like, is that an ATL thing? Because it doesn't seem to be the way. At least in the gameplay, it doesn't, because the freaking Phoenix powers are still the best powers in the game.
Yeah. With the wings and yeah.
I've actually been kind of disappointed. It's a bit of a tangent, but like it's like with each new icon after Ramu, like I do like the Titan abilities. I think they're pretty good in combat, but I did not like Bahamut's at all. I thought Bahamut's kind of sucked. And then Odin's are cool looking. But like, I guess where I'm getting ahead of a little bit, but like,
or anything,
they don't stun enemies. They don't like, they just kind of eat the damage and continue to attack you. So I didn't really like those as much. And then Shiva's powers too. I just kind of like, these are just not as good. So I've just kind of stuck with Garuda, Phoenix, and Shiva. Or not Shiva, Ramu. I think
Ramu.
I think that those are the best ones. I'm totally happy with just sticking with those three, but. Anyway, I guess we'll get an answer here a little later, but...
Chocolate Rob said that it was his own observation.
Oh, his own observation. Okay. Okay, so it's a nice scene. They're kind of finally, taking down their barriers. Again, another reason for the nakedness, right, between each other and fully committing to each other. She willingly gives him the blessing of Shiva. This burden... I'll give you the strength to bear it alone, she says, but I'm not alone. These burdens I carry, my sins, my pain, my sorrow, I see now that they are all part of me. Accepting the shadow is kind of what I saw in that,
very
right?
Nice, very nice.
If I'm to continue on, having pledged my life to those I love, then I will gladly bear your burdens too until my last breath. Clive, I promise you, Jill, we will find a way to escape this fate, find a way to save each other, that we might one day look upon the moon again together. You get that shot of the moon. And then she promises him.
Yeah, well, I had a question about that. We will one day look at the moon together.
Yeah.
Like, it's right now. It's right there.
Like at this moment.
Yeah. Or no, at first I was like, oh, maybe the skies are cloudy still and like you can't see the moon. But like you can, and it's shown a couple times after this. So like, I don't know what they're talking about. I think they mean let us look at the moon without a care, without troubles. Okay. But the way it's said is like, oh, one day we'll finally get to see the moon again. Like it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's right then.
It's literally
literally right now.
Yeah. She also talks about, you spent your whole life being concerned about saving others, but you never really took care of yourself. And you need to learn to do that better. It's a good scene. I don't really have much more other than that as far as notes go.
No, it was a good scene.
I do like how he says, I never thought a smile could bring me so much joy at the end.
Oh, that was good. That was cool.
That a lot.
That was cool, yeah.
And then the next morning, the Enterprise arrives and takes them back to the highway. Again, they're like, let's just go back to the highway instead of continuing to... It's like, how much time does it take to get all the way back there and come all the way back again? But we've already gone over that.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Anyway, that's it. That's all I got for this week.
We're getting close.
I think we're getting fairly close to the end of the game. Next time we'll kill Odin, which is I've already done. You're getting close to that now.
Yeah.
And then there's like a ton of side quests, and then there's kind of the last stretch of the game. Is from what I hear, we're getting there. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys next week. Peace out.